went back to my hotel room for sunscreen and found my dad with a stranger. I ran back barefoot across hot asphalt, flip-flops dangling from one hand, already rehearsing the excuse I'd give Mom for abandoning her at the beach. Forgot my sunscreen. Simple. True. She wouldn't question it. The lobby air conditioning hit like a wall. I took the stairs 2 at a time, still thinking about the way my younger brother had barely looked up when Dad announced he wasn't coming, just kept scrolling on his phone like he'd expected it. My sister had rolled her eyes but said nothing. Mom's jaw had tightened for half a second before she smiled and said we'd have fun without him. I slid the keycard through the reader on our connecting rooms. Dad's door stood slightly ajar. Dad, I just need to grab... The room wasn't empty. He stood by the window in an undershirt and boxers, one hand braced against the wall. A woman in a hotel uniform, housekeeping, maybe, or front desk, had her back to me, frozen mid-motion as she yanked her shirt down. Her name tag caught the light. The air smelled like cologne I didn't recognize. Nobody moved. Dad's face drained, his mouth opened, closed, opened again. The woman turned, eyes wide, and for a split second I thought she might try to explain, to say something that would make this make sense. Instead, she grabbed her shoes and pushed past me into the hallway, moving fast enough that I had to step aside or get knocked over. Wait! Dad's voice cracked. Just wait, let me... I backed into the doorframe. My sunscreen sat on the dresser 3 feet away, right where I'd left it this morning. I could see it clearly. I didn't move toward it. It's not what you think. He reached for his pants, draped over a chair. His hands shook. She was just... There was a problem with the AC. She came to check. She said you told her we'd be gone till dinner. The words came out flat. I hadn't meant to say them. I'd heard her whisper it in the hallway. Frantic. Apologetic. Like she'd been set up. Like this was supposed to be safe. Dad stopped moving. His face shifted through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Denial, calculation, defeat. He sat down hard on the edge of the bed. How long, I asked. Don't. He looked at the floor. Don't do this. How long has this been happening? Your mother doesn't need to know about this. Do you understand? This trip is... We're trying to fix things. All of us. That's why we're here. My stomach turned. The way he said it. Like I was the problem now. Like my knowing was the thing that would ruin everything instead of what I just walked in on. I thought about Mom sitting under the umbrella, probably wondering where I was. My sister building some elaborate sandcastle. My brother staring at nothing. I grabbed the sunscreen off the dresser. Dad stood up, stepped toward me. We can talk about this. Later. Just give me a chance to explain. I walked out. He didn't follow. The elevator took forever. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. By the time I hit the lobby, I'd made a decision I didn't remember making. When I reached the beach access path, Mom was standing at the top, shading her eyes, scanning the crowd. She spotted me and waved. I walked faster. She smiled, then stopped smiling. Her hand dropped. What happened? She asked. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She took one look at my face and her whole body went rigid. What happened? She repeated, quieter this time. I told her. Mom didn't say anything at first. She just stood there on the path, sand dusting her ankles, staring at me like I'd told her someone died. Then she turned and walked back toward the umbrella without a word. I followed. My sister looked up from her sandcastle, squinting against the sun. My brother hadn't moved from his towel, still flat on his back with his phone held above his face. We're leaving, Mom said. She started folding towels with sharp mechanical movements. Pack up, my sister frowned. What? Why? Because I said so. But we just got here like an hour ago. Mom's hand stopped. She looked at me, then at my sister, then at the ocean like it might offer her some kind of script for this. When she spoke again, her voice came out too controlled. Ask your father. My brother sat up. He looked at me. Something passed across his face. Not surprise, not confusion. Recognition, maybe. Like he'd been waiting for this. We hauled everything back to the hotel in silence. The lobby felt different now. Smaller, like the walls had shifted inward. Mom walked straight past the front desk without looking at anyone. I kept scanning faces, wondering if the woman was still here, if she was watching us leave. Dad was dressed when we got back to the room. Polo shirt tucked in, belt fastened, hair combed. He stood near the window with his hands in his pockets, trying to look calm. It didn't work. His eyes kept darting toward the door. Can we talk? He asked Mom. She dropped her beach bag on the floor. No, please, just give me 5 minutes to get out. My sister looked between them. What is going on? Dad glanced at me. There was something pleading in his expression, something that made my skin crawl, like we were supposed to be on the same team now, bound by what I'd seen, like I owed him silence. Your father had company this morning, Mom said. While we were at the beach, my sister's face went blank. What kind of company? The kind that runs when someone walks in. Dad's composure cracked. That's not fair. You're making it sound. She was an employee. There was a misunderstanding with the room service. She came to apologize, and your daughter walked in at exactly the wrong moment. She wasn't wearing shoes, I said. Everyone looked at me. She grabbed them on her way out. They were on the floor. Dad's mouth opened. Nothing came out. He tried again. I don't know why maybe she was just getting comfortable while we talked. People do that. It doesn't mean... Stop. Mom's voice cut through the room like glass breaking. Just stop. My brother stood up from his bed. He moved toward the connecting door like he was trying to leave without anyone noticing. Sit down, Mom said. He froze. Did you know about this? The room went silent. My brother's shoulders hunched forward. He didn't turn around. Answer me. Know about what? His voice came out too quiet. Look at me when I'm talking to you. He turned. His face was red, but not from anger, from something else. Shame, maybe? Or fear. Did you know your father was cheating? My sister made a small noise in her throat. Dad stepped forward. Nobody's cheating. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. If everyone would just calm down and let me explain. I asked him a question. Mom didn't look away from my brother. Did you know? He nodded once, fast, like ripping off a bandage. My sister stood up. You knew? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I didn't know details. Dad said he had a friend, someone he saw sometimes when he traveled for work. He said it wasn't serious. He said it didn't matter. Mom laughed. It sounded wrong, sharp and airless. It didn't matter. He said you guys were basically done anyway, that you'd agreed to stay together for us, but that you both had your own lives now. I never agreed to that. My brother looked at Dad. I said we talk about this later. Dad's voice had an edge now. This isn't the time or place. When is the time? Mom asked. When were you planning to tell me you've been parading your girlfriend around behind my back while I thought we were working on things? She's not my girlfriend. Then what is she? Dad didn't answer. The silence stretched out until it felt like something physical, pressing down on all of us. My sister grabbed her suitcase from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. I can't be here right now. None of us can. Mom pulled out her phone. I'm changing our flights. We're leaving tonight. You can't just, Dad started. Watch me. He stepped toward her. She held up one hand, palm out, and he stopped like he'd hit a wall. If you touch me right now, I will scream. Do you understand? His hand dropped. For the first time since I'd walked in on him, he looked actually scared. We packed in silence. My sister cried quietly while folding her swimsuit, still damp from the beach. My brother moved like a robot, methodical and empty. I kept replaying the morning in my head, the woman's face when she saw me, the way Dad's voice had cracked, the smell of cologne that wasn't his. Mom made calls in the bathroom with the door closed. Her voice came through muffled but steady, arranging cars and flights and explaining to someone on the phone that yes, we needed to leave tonight. No, it couldn't wait. Dad tried one more time at the door. Please, just let me fix this. Mom didn't even look up. There's nothing left to fix. We left before dinner. The hallway lights felt too bright, artificial, turning everything flat and overexposed. Other families passed us with pool toys and room service menus, laughing about something, living a vacation we'd never actually had. Dad stood in the doorway of his room watching us go. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. My brother glanced back once. I didn't. By the time we reached the parking lot, Mom had booked 2 separate flights. Her and my sister on one, me and my brother on another, 3 hours later. I can't look at him right now, she said, meaning my brother. I need space to think. He nodded. He didn't argue. None of us did. The house felt different when we got back. Same furniture, same photos on the walls, but everything looked staged now, like props in a play nobody wanted to watch anymore. Mom went straight to her bedroom and shut the door. My sister disappeared into hers. I stood in the kitchen with my brother, both of us still holding our bags, neither of us sure what came next. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what part? All of it. Any of it. I set my bag down harder than I meant to. You should have told her. He said he would. He kept saying he was going to talk to her, that he just needed time to figure out how. That's what cheaters always say. He flinched but didn't argue. After a minute, he picked up his bag and headed upstairs. I heard his door close, then lock. My phone started ringing before I'd even unpacked. Dad's name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately, then again. On the 4th call, I answered just to make it stop. We need to talk, he said. No greeting, no apology, just that. I don't think we do. You have no idea what you've done. Your mother won't answer my calls. Your sister blocked me. Do you understand what kind of position you've put me in? What kind of position you put yourself in? I was talking to a hotel employee. That's it. You walked in on a completely innocent conversation and decided to blow up our entire family over nothing. She wasn't wearing shoes. So what? Maybe she took them off. Maybe they were uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you were half-dressed. Silence. Then his voice came back harder. I'd just gotten out of the shower. I was getting dressed when she knocked. I opened the door in a towel because I thought it was room service. None of this would be happening if you hadn't come back early. None of this would be happening if you weren't cheating. I'm not. He stopped himself, took a breath. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted to something softer, almost pleading. Listen, I know how it looked. I get it. But you have to understand, your mother and I have been having problems for years. We've grown apart. That doesn't make what happened your fault, but it also doesn't make me the villain here. Then who is? Nobody. That's my point. Sometimes relationships just end. Sometimes people need space to figure out who they are outside of a marriage that stopped working a long time ago. Did Mom know it stopped working? Another pause. We both knew. That's not what she said. Because she doesn't want to admit it. Because it's easier to make me the bad guy than to accept that we've both been going through the motions for years. I heard Mom's door open upstairs. Footsteps in the hallway, then the bathroom door closing. I have to go, I said. Wait, can you talk to her? Can you at least tell her I want to explain? She doesn't want to hear it. Then make her want to. Please, you started this. You can help fix it. I didn't start anything. You told her something that wasn't true. It was true. You told her your version of something you didn't understand. There's a difference. My hand tightened around the phone. Don't call me again. I hung up before he could respond. The calls didn't stop. 3 more that night, 5 the next morning. He left voicemails, each one a different variation of the same script. Misunderstanding, overreaction, innocent explanation. By the 3rd day, he'd switched tactics entirely. Your mother's poisoning you against me. I hope you realize that. She's always been controlling, always needed to have the final word on everything. Now she's using this as an excuse to turn you all into weapons. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Mom stayed in her room most of that first week. My sister brought her food on a tray, knocked twice, and left it outside the door. Sometimes the tray came back empty. Sometimes it sat there until the next morning. I started going through old family photos, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop. Every vacation, every holiday, every staged smile in front of some monument or landmark. I tried to remember if Dad had ever seemed distracted, if there were trips he'd extended at the last minute, dinners he'd missed because of sudden conference calls. There were dozens, maybe hundreds. My sister found me on the couch one night surrounded by albums and loose prints. What are you doing? She asked. Looking. For what? Proof. She sat down next to me, picked up a photo from 2 Christmases ago. All of us in matching pajamas, Dad's arm around Mom's shoulder, everyone grinning at the camera. You're not going to find it in pictures, she said. Maybe not, but I'll know it when I see it. She set the photo down. Do you think he's telling the truth about them being done already? Does it matter? Kind of. If Mom knew, if they'd agreed to some kind of arrangement, then maybe. She didn't know. How are you sure? Because I was there when she found out you saw her face. My sister pulled her knees up to her chest. I keep trying to figure out when it started. Like if I can pinpoint the exact moment, it'll make more sense somehow. It won't. How do you know? Because I've been doing the same thing for 3 days and I still don't understand any of it. Mom's laptop sat on the coffee table, closed but not put away. I opened it without thinking. The screen lit up on her email inbox. Dozens of unread messages flagged and sorted into folders I'd never seen before. You shouldn't, my sister started, but I was already scrolling. Subject line Headlines jumped out in fragments. Conference schedule, reimbursement request, updated itinerary. I clicked one at random, dated 8 months ago. It was from Dad's work account. Short, formal, thanking someone named Rebecca for coordinating his travel arrangements to a sales summit in Denver. I opened another. Same name, different city, then another. Philadelphia, Seattle, Austin. Rebecca's signature appeared at the bottom of each one with a hotel logo I didn't recognize. Who's Rebecca? My sister asked. I searched the name in Mom's email. 43 results. I opened the oldest one, from 3 years ago. A confirmation for a dinner reservation. Party of 2. Sent to both Dad's work email and Mom's personal one by mistake. The next email in the chain was from Dad. Ignore that. Client dinner got moved. Won't need the reservation after all. But the reservation hadn't been canceled. I could see the receipt, forwarded from the restaurant 2 days later, showing it had been used. My sister leaned closer to the screen. Oh, we went through the rest in silence. Flight confirmations that didn't match his calendar. Hotel bookings for rooms he'd told Mom were complimentary through his rewards program. Receipts for 2 dinners, 2 show tickets, 2 museum entries, all charged to the same credit card Mom thought was just for business expenses. She knew, my sister whispered. She suspected. That's different. Is it? I didn't answer. I kept clicking, kept reading, kept finding proof of something I'd already known but hadn't wanted to quantify. Each email was small on its own, a date that didn't line up, a charge that seemed slightly wrong, but together they built a pattern so obvious I couldn't believe we'd all missed it. Mom appeared in the doorway. We both jumped. Close that, she said quietly. Mom, we found— I know what you found. Close it. My sister shut the laptop. Mom walked over and picked it up, held it against her chest like she was protecting it. How long have you known? I asked. I didn't know. I wondered. There's a difference. But you saved everything, just in case. Just so I'd have it if I ever needed it. You need it now. She looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes were red but dry, like she'd run out of tears days ago and was just running on empty now. What I need is for everyone to stop treating this like a detective story. It's my marriage. It's my life. And I get to decide what happens next. He's lying to you. I know. Then why? She left before either of us could respond. The laptop went with her. My phone rang again that night. Not Dad this time. My aunt, Mom's sister, calling from 2 states away. Is it true? She asked. About your father? Who told you? Your grandmother. She heard it from your uncle. Is it true? Yeah. And you saw it? You actually walked in on them? She made a noise I couldn't interpret. Your mother must be devastated. She is. I always knew he was too charming. Men like that, they can't help themselves. It's pathological. I didn't know what to say to that. Tell her to call me, my aunt continued. Tell her she has options. She doesn't have to stay in that house. Doesn't have to keep pretending everything's fine. She's not pretending. Good. She shouldn't. And neither should you. If anyone asks, you tell them exactly what you saw. Don't let him spin this into something it wasn't. She hung up before I could ask who anyone was supposed to be, but I found out soon enough. Dad's brother called the next morning, then his mother, then 2 of his coworkers, both asking careful questions about whether I was sure about what I'd seen, whether it was possible I'd misunderstood the situation. By the end of the week, it felt like the entire extended family had taken sides. Team Mom, Team Dad, Team Nobody knows the full story. Every conversation was a trap. Every question loaded with implications I couldn't see until I'd already answered wrong. My brother stopped coming out of his room. My sister started staying at a friend's house. Mom moved through the house like a ghost, present but untouchable. And Dad kept calling, kept leaving messages, kept insisting that if I would just talk to Mom, just explain that I'd misunderstood, everything could go back to normal. But there was no normal to go back to. There never had been. Mom hired a lawyer on a Tuesday. I only knew because a woman in a gray suit showed up at the house with a briefcase and stayed in the dining room for 3 hours. When she left, Mom looked lighter somehow, like she'd set something heavy down and could finally stand up straight. I filed, she said that night at dinner. Just the 3 of us at the table. My brother still upstairs. He'll be served tomorrow. My sister's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Already? There's no point waiting. But what if you two could— We can't. I watched Mom cut her chicken into smaller and smaller pieces, not eating any of it. Her hands were steady, her voice was calm, but her jaw was set in a way that made it clear the conversation was over. Dad called me 15 minutes after the papers arrived. I knew because my phone lit up at exactly 9 in the morning, and his voice was already raw with rage. You happy now? You got what you wanted? I didn't want this. You started it. You told her a lie, and now she's taking everything. The house, the accounts, probably the car, all because you couldn't keep your mouth shut about something that wasn't even real. It was real. It was a misunderstanding that you turned into a weapon. And now my own wife won't even talk to me, won't even give me a chance to explain, because you convinced her I'm some kind of monster. I didn't convince her of anything. She saw the emails. Silence, then quieter. What emails? The ones you sent. The reservations, the receipts, all of it. She had them saved. Those were work trips, every single one of them. With Rebecca. Another pause. Longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Rebecca coordinated my travel. That was her job. If your mother's twisting that into something it's not, that's on her, not me. Then why didn't you tell her about the dinner reservations? Because I knew she'd react exactly like this. I knew she'd take one innocent detail and blow it up into some grand conspiracy. That's what she does. That's what she's always done. She's filing for divorce. I know. And when this is over, when she realizes what she's throwing away over nothing, it'll be too late. I hope you understand that. I hope you understand what you've cost this family. He hung up before I could respond. The gossip started small. A neighbor asking my mom how she was holding up. A cousin texting to say she'd heard something happened and wanted to make sure everyone was okay. But within days, it spread through town like a stain, seeping into every conversation, every glance, every interaction. I ran into one of Dad's coworkers at the grocery store. He didn't say anything at first, just gave me this look, half pity, half curiosity, and then asked how my family was doing. Fine, I said. I heard about the separation. That's rough. Yeah, your dad's taking it pretty hard. Says it all came out of nowhere. I put a box of cereal in my cart and tried to move past him, but he stepped slightly to the side, blocking the aisle without making it obvious. He mentioned there was some kind of misunderstanding at the hotel. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Right, but he said you walked in at a bad time, saw something that looked worse than it was. That happens, you know, especially with teenagers. You see something, your brain fills in the gaps, and suddenly, I know what I saw. Sure. I'm just saying, your dad's a good guy. I've worked with him for years. If he says it was innocent, I believe him. He smiled like he'd just done me a a favor and walked away. It kept happening. At school, at the coffee shop, at the park where I used to go to clear my head. People who barely knew me suddenly had opinions about what I'd seen, what I'd said, whether I was sure or just upset or looking for attention. One of my friends brought it up during lunch, her voice low like she was trying to be sensitive. I heard your parents are splitting up. Is it true your dad was cheating? But like, did you actually see them together or did you just see him with someone and assume? I set my sandwich down. I saw enough. Okay, but what does that mean? Because my mom said your dad told her cousin it was all a big misunderstanding, that you walked in on him talking to a hotel worker and freaked out. Your mom doesn't know what she's talking about? I'm just saying maybe you misread the situation. It happens. I didn't. She leaned back, hands up, like she was surrendering. Okay, I'm not trying to start anything. I just think it's weird that your dad's version and your version are so different, you know? I didn't eat the rest of my lunch. My sister came home that weekend with red eyes and a duffel bag. She dropped it in the entryway and went straight to the kitchen without looking at me. What happened? I asked. Nothing. You're crying. I'm fine. Mom appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. What happened? My sister pulled a glass from the cabinet and filled it with water, drank half of it before answering. Dad's getting remarried. The room went still. To who? Mom's voice was flat, distant. Her. The woman from the hotel. He posted about it online, said he's finally found someone who understands him, someone who makes him happy. There's pictures and everything. Mom didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there staring at nothing. He's calling her his fiancée, my sister continued. Says they've been together for months. Says he's never been this sure about anything in his life. Months, I repeated. That's what he wrote. We left the hotel 3 weeks ago. I know. Mom turned and walked out of the room. We heard her bedroom door close, then lock. My sister finished her water and set the glass down carefully, like she was afraid it might shatter. Everyone's talking about it. All his friends, all his coworkers. They're congratulating him, saying how happy he looks, how he deserves this after everything he's been through. Everything he's been through? That's what they're saying, like Mom's the villain, like we're the villains. Did you comment? No, I blocked him. Good. She looked at me and for the first time in days, her expression softened. Do you think he actually loves her? I don't know, because if he does, that's almost worse. Like we didn't matter at all. I didn't have an answer for that. Dad's social media became a shrine to his new life. Pictures of them at dinner, at the beach, at some cabin upstate, captions about new beginnings and real love, and finally being understood. His friends flooded the comments with support, with emojis, with congratulations. I scrolled through it all, feeling sicker with each post. Not because he'd moved on, but because he was doing it so publicly, so loudly, like he wanted to make sure everyone knew he was fine. Better than fine. Thriving. One of his posts showed up on my feed a few days later, a photo of the two of them holding hands, her ring visible in the foreground. The caption read, "When you know, you know. Excited to start this next chapter with someone who sees me for who I really am." The comments were worse than the post itself. So happy for you. You deserve this. About time you found someone who appreciates you. And then, buried halfway down, a comment from someone I didn't recognize. Glad you got away from that toxic situation. Your kids will understand eventually. I reported the comment. It stayed up. My brother finally came out of his room that night. He looked thinner, paler, like he hadn't been eating or sleeping. I need to tell you something, he said. We were in the living room, just the two of us. Mom was asleep. My sister was out. Okay. Dad called me, offered to pay off my loans again if I talked to Mom, if I convinced her to drop the divorce. What did you say? I said no, but you didn't, because it's not easier. It's just quieter. And I'm done being quiet. I sat next to him. We didn't say anything else. We didn't need to. The divorce moved forward. Papers were signed. Lawyers talked. Assets were divided. Dad fought for the house, the car, the savings account. Mom fought back harder. His engagement became a weapon. Look how happy I am, he seemed to say with every post, every photo, every public declaration. Look how much better my life is without you. But it didn't feel like happiness. It felt like performance. Like he was trying to convince himself as much as everyone else. People kept asking me about it, kept implying I'd exaggerated, kept suggesting I'd misunderstood. And every time I tried to explain, tried to defend what I knew to be true, it felt like I was digging myself deeper into a hole I'd never be able to climb out of. Until the day my mom's lawyer called with news that changed everything. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. Mom answered in the kitchen, and I watched her face shift from neutral to focused in the span of 3 seconds. When did you get these? She asked. A pause. No, I understand. Thank you. She hung up and stared at her phone for a long moment before looking at me. That was the lawyer. Someone sent her something. What kind of something? Screenshots, emails, travel records. She set the phone down carefully. A lot of them. The documents arrived by courier the next morning. Mom spread them across the dining table like evidence at a crime scene, and we stood there looking at them in silence. Conference schedules, hotel bookings, dinner reservations for 2. All of them dated months, even years before the beach trip. All of them listing Rebecca's name alongside Dad's. He told me these were client meetings, Mom said quietly. Every single one. I picked up a receipt from a restaurant in Chicago. The date was from 2 years ago, right around the time Dad said he'd been working late to close a big deal. The total was for 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, 1 dessert. Who sent these? Someone who worked with your father. They didn't leave a name. My sister appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. She looked at the table, then at Mom, then back at the papers. What is all this? Proof, Mom said. My sister stepped closer, scanning the documents. Her hand hovered over a printout of an email. Dad confirming a hotel reservation for himself and Rebecca, asking for a room with a view. The date was 3 years old. He was lying the whole time. Yes, about everything. My sister sat down hard in one of the chairs. I defended him. I told people you were overreacting. I said maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe we didn't understand what was happening. You didn't know. Mom gathered the papers into a neat stack and slid them into a folder. His lawyer's going to have a hard time explaining these. The company records came next. Mom's lawyer had subpoenaed Dad's employer, and what came back was worse than any of us expected. Rebecca had been on the payroll as an executive assistant, but her travel expenses were always tied to Dad's trips. Every flight, every hotel, every meal. Billed as business support. The company had approved it all without question because Dad had been a senior manager, trusted, reliable. But the dates didn't match his official work calendar. Half the trips he'd taken with her weren't even during active projects. They were just trips. Vacations dressed up as work, funded by the company, hidden behind a title and a budget code. He committed fraud, the lawyer explained over the phone, her voice calm but pointed. Not just infidelity. He falsified expense reports, misused company funds, and involved another employee in the process. If the company decides to pursue this, he could lose his job, maybe worse. Mom didn't say anything for a long time after the call ended. She just sat there, staring at the folder in front of her. I thought he was working, she said finally. All those nights he said he'd be late. All those weekends he said he couldn't make it to your games or recitals. I thought he was building something for us. He was building something, I said. Just not for us. She nodded slowly. No, not for us. My brother came downstairs that evening. He looked worse than before. Thinner, quieter, like he was carrying something too heavy to set down. I need to tell you something else, he said. We were in the living room again. Mom, my sister, and me. All of us waiting. Dad knew I was going to drop out before I did it. He's the one who suggested it. My sister leaned forward. What? He said college was a waste of money. That I wasn't cut out for it. That I'd be better off taking a break and figuring things out. He said he'd help me with the loans if I just stopped asking questions. Questions about what? About where he was? About the trips? About Rebecca. My brother's voice cracked. I saw her name on his phone once. Saw the messages. I asked him about it, and he told me it was work. Said if I kept quiet and didn't make things harder for him, he'd take care of the debt. So I did. I kept quiet. I dropped out. I stayed in my room and pretended I didn't know. Mom's face went pale. He paid you to stay silent. He didn't pay me. He promised to pay me, but he never did. The loans are still there. I'm still drowning, and now he's posting pictures with her like none of this ever happened. My sister stood up and walked to the window, her arms crossed tight against her chest. He planned this. All of it. He knew what he was doing. He's been doing it for years, I said. And we just let him. We didn't know. We all did, Mom said quietly. The next time I saw one of Dad's posts, I didn't scroll past it. I stopped and read the whole thing. Another picture of him and Rebecca, this time at some upscale restaurant. The caption talked about celebrating new opportunities, about how grateful he was to have someone who supported his dreams. The comments were the same as always. Congratulations, well deserved. So happy for you. But this time, buried near the bottom, there was a new comment from someone I didn't recognize. Interesting how those new opportunities were funded by your employer. Hope they don't find out. The comment disappeared within an hour. I showed it to Mom. She didn't react. Just nodded and added it to the folder with everything else. His lawyer's going to try to discredit all of this, she said. He'll say it's circumstantial, that the trips were legitimate, that the company approved everything. But they didn't know what he was doing. No, they didn't. So what happens now? Now we wait, and we let the truth do the work. Dad called my sister the following week. She didn't answer, but he left a voicemail. She played it for us on speaker, her hand shaking as she held the phone. I don't know what your mother's lawyer is trying to pull, but it's not going to work. Those documents are being taken out of context. Rebecca was my assistant. She traveled with me because that was her job. If people want to twist that into something else, that's their problem, not mine. A pause, then quieter, almost pleading. I need you to talk to her. Tell her to stop this. Tell her I'm not the bad guy here. I made mistakes, but I'm not a criminal. I'm not a liar. I'm your father, and I deserve better than this. The voicemail ended. My sister deleted it without a word. The company launched an internal investigation the following Monday. We only found out because someone from HR called Mom's lawyer asking for copies of the travel records. They wanted to cross-reference them with their own files, wanted to verify the dates and expenses. They're taking it seriously, the lawyer said. If they find discrepancies, he's done. What does that mean for us? It means the truth is bigger than just your family now. It means he can't control the narrative anymore. Mom hung up and looked at me. Do you feel good about this? I don't know. Neither do I. But there was something in her voice that hadn't been there before. Not satisfaction exactly. More like relief. Like she'd been holding her breath for years and could finally exhale. The gossip shifted. Slowly at first, then all at once. The people who had defended Dad, who had called me a liar, who had said I misunderstood what I saw, they started asking new questions. One of his coworkers stopped me outside the grocery store again. This time he didn't smile. I heard there's an investigation. I heard that too. Is it true about the trips? I don't know what you've heard. I heard he was lying, that he took her with him for years and billed it all as work, that the company's looking into it. Then I guess you heard right. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I didn't know. None of us did. He seemed like a good guy. Yeah, I said, he did. The truth wasn't loud. It didn't arrive with fanfare or vindication. It just settled, piece by piece, until the weight of it was undeniable. And for the first time since the beach trip, I felt like I could breathe. The audit results leaked before the official announcement. Someone at the company forwarded them to a local news blog that specialized in corporate misconduct. And by Thursday morning, the story was everywhere. Former senior manager under investigation for expense fraud and policy violations, the headline read. They didn't name Dad directly in the first paragraph, but they didn't need to. The details were specific enough that anyone who knew him would recognize the story immediately. Falsified travel records, unauthorized companion on business trips, misuse of company funds totaling tens of thousands of dollars over a 3-year period. The article quoted an unnamed source saying the investigation had uncovered a pattern of deception that went beyond simple paperwork errors. This wasn't a mistake, the source said. This was systematic fraud. Mom's phone started ringing before 8. Friends, neighbors, people from church. Everyone wanted to know if she'd seen it, if it was true, if she was okay. She answered the first few calls with polite deflection, then stopped picking up entirely. Let them talk, she said. They're going to anyway. My sister came downstairs with her laptop open, scrolling through the comments section under the article. Her face was pale. People are sharing it everywhere. Someone posted it in the neighborhood group. Someone else sent it to the PTA mailing list. What are they saying? That they always knew something was off. That he seemed too smooth, too polished. That his wife probably knew and covered for him. She looked up at Mom. They're blaming you. Let them. They're saying you should have stopped him. I didn't know what he was doing. None of us did. But they don't care. They just want someone to blame. Mom closed her eyes and took a long breath. Then let them blame me. It doesn't doesn't change what happened. The company released an official statement that afternoon. Brief, clinical, careful not to say too much. Following an internal audit, we have terminated the employment of a senior staff member for violations of company policy and misuse of corporate resources. We are cooperating fully with any further investigations and remain committed to upholding the highest standards of integrity. They didn't name him. They didn't need to. Dad's social media went dark. The posts with Rebecca, the inspirational captions, the carefully curated image of a man starting fresh, all of it disappeared overnight. His profile picture changed to a blank gray square. His bio was wiped clean. Rebecca's profile stayed up, but she stopped posting pictures of them together. Instead, she shared vague quotes about resilience and moving forward, about how some chapters close so better ones can begin. The comments under those posts were cautious, supportive, oblivious. You deserve happiness. Stay strong. Don't let anyone dim your light. Nobody seemed to connect her to the scandal. Or if they did, they didn't say it out loud. The company's audit report was over 40 pages long. Mom's lawyer got a copy through Discovery, and we sat at the dining table while she walked us through the key findings. Every trip Dad had taken with Rebecca had been billed as essential business travel. Client meetings, project oversight, executive training. But when the company cross-referenced the dates with actual project timelines and client records, none of it matched. The clients he claimed to be meeting didn't have appointments scheduled. The projects he said required oversight were either completed months earlier or didn't exist at all. The training seminars he attended were real, but Rebecca's attendance wasn't authorized, and her role didn't qualify her for the sessions. He created a shadow itinerary, the lawyer explained. He'd book legitimate work trips, then extend them by a few days or reroute them through cities that had nothing to do with his job. He'd submit expenses for meals, hotels, transportation, all of it approved because his supervisor trusted him. How much? Just under $60,000 over 3 years. Maybe more depending on what else they find. My sister put her head in her hands. He stole from them. Technically, yes. He defrauded his employer by falsifying records and misusing company funds for personal benefit. That's a terminable offense. It could also be criminal, depending on how the company chooses to proceed. Will they press charges? They haven't decided yet, but the fact that it's public now puts pressure on them to take action. If they don't, it looks like they're protecting him. Mom folded her hands on the table. And Rebecca? She's listed on the reports as an employee, so the company's treating her involvement as complicity. She's been let go as well. Good. The local gossip turned vicious. People who had smiled at Dad in the grocery store, who had shaken his hand at neighborhood events, who had called him a good guy, they all had new opinions now. Someone spray-painted thief on the mailbox outside his apartment. The landlord made him clean it off, but by then, photos of it were already circulating online. A former co-worker posted a long rant on social media about how Dad had thrown the whole department under scrutiny, how the rest of them were being questioned now because of his actions, how he'd destroyed the trust they'd spent years building. He didn't just betray his family, the post said. He betrayed all of us. The comments piled up, dozens of people agreeing, sharing their own stories about Dad, reframing old interactions in a new light. I always thought he was arrogant. He acted like the rules didn't apply to him. I'm not surprised. Guys like that always think they're smarter than everyone else. Rebecca's social media presence shifted again. She posted a photo of herself alone at a coffee shop, looking thoughtful. The caption reading, "Sometimes you have to walk away from what you thought you wanted to find what you actually need." The comments were sympathetic, encouraging, supportive. "You're so brave. He didn't deserve you. You'll find someone better." Nobody seemed to realize she'd been part of it. Or maybe they just didn't care. Dad tried to call my sister again. This time she answered, "What do you want?" His voice was strained, defensive. "I need you to understand that this is being blown out of proportion. The company's trying to make an example out of me because they don't want to admit they approved everything I did. They signed off on those trips. They knew Rebecca was traveling with me. This isn't fraud. It's a witch hunt. They have the records, Dad. They have proof you lied. I didn't lie. I did my job. I brought in clients. I closed deals. I made them money. If they want to nitpick my travel expenses now, that's their problem, not mine. You took her with you for years. You billed it as work. You lied to Mom, you lied to us, and you lied to them. I made mistakes. I'm not denying that, but I'm not a criminal. I'm not some villain. I'm your father, and I'm asking you to stand by me. Why would I do that? Because I'm still your father. Because family is supposed to mean something. Family did mean something until you decided it didn't." She hung up. Rebecca married him 6 weeks later. A quiet ceremony at a courthouse. No guests, no announcement. We only found out because someone spotted them leaving the building and posted about it online. The timing felt deliberate, calculated, like she was locking in her claim before everything fell apart completely. Mom's lawyer pointed it out during our next meeting. She's protecting herself. If she's his wife, she has access to his assets, his accounts, his benefits. If things get worse, if the company presses charges or he files for bankruptcy, she'll have legal standing to claim her share. So she's using him, or she's securing her position. Either way, she's not walking away empty-handed. The money started disappearing 3 months later. Small amounts at first, transfers to accounts we didn't recognize, withdrawals that didn't match any bills or expenses. Then larger sums, thousands at a time, drained from the joint account Dad had opened with Rebecca after the wedding. He didn't notice until it was too late. Or maybe he noticed and didn't want to believe it. By the time he tried to freeze the accounts, most of the money was gone. His savings, his retirement contributions, the settlement he'd received when the company bought him out to avoid further scandal, all of it moved, liquidated, transferred somewhere he couldn't trace. Rebecca's social media went silent. No posts, no updates, no explanations, just a blank profile and a growing list of unanswered questions. The car disappeared next. The sedan he'd been driving, the one he'd leased under both their names. One morning it was parked outside his apartment, and by evening it was gone. Repo, someone said. Sold, someone else guessed. Either way, Dad was left walking. He tried calling her. The number was disconnected. He tried emailing her. The messages bounced back. He tried showing up at places she used to go. The gym, the coffee shop, the salon. Nobody had seen her. Or if they had, they weren't saying. She was gone. The truth came out in pieces, the way it always does. Someone who knew someone who worked at the bank mentioned that Rebecca had opened new accounts in a different state weeks before the wedding. Someone else said they'd seen her at a restaurant with another man, younger, well-dressed, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. The final piece came from a mutual acquaintance who didn't owe Dad any loyalty. Rebecca had been planning her exit for months. The marriage was a stopgap, a legal maneuver to access his accounts and assets before disappearing. The man she left with wasn't new. She'd been seeing him on the side the whole time, using Dad as a financial safety net while she built her next move. She played him, the acquaintance said, same way he played his wife. Mom didn't react when I told her. She just nodded, like it was exactly what she'd expected. He built his life on lies, she said. So did she. I'm not surprised they destroyed each other. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday. No drama, no courtroom showdown, no last-minute appeals. Just signatures on documents, a judge's approval, and a legal end to 26 years of marriage. Mom didn't celebrate. She didn't cry. She just came home, set the folder on the kitchen counter, and made herself a cup of tea. It's done, she said. How do you feel? Tired? Relieved? Empty? She looked at me. But not sorry. I don't forgive him. I don't feel bad for him. I don't care what happens to him now. You don't have to. I know. She took a sip of tea, staring out the window. I just needed to say it out loud. My brother moved out a week later. Not far. Just across town, into a small apartment he could barely afford. He got a job at a warehouse, started paying down his loans a little at a time, stopped answering Dad's calls. I can't fix what I did, he told me before he left. But I can stop making it worse. My sister stayed longer, but the tension was unbearable. She and Mom barely spoke. And when they did, it was clipped, careful, like they were afraid of saying too much. She moved in with a friend eventually, packing her things in silence while Mom watched from the doorway. I'm not mad at you, Mom said. I know. I just need space. We all do. They hugged before my sister left, but it was stiff, obligatory, the kind of embrace that said more about obligation than affection. Dad got evicted from his apartment 4 months after Rebecca left. He couldn't make rent, couldn't keep up with bills, couldn't find work because his reputation had imploded. The company blacklisted him, and every job he applied for seemed to know his name before he walked in the door. He moved back in with his parents, 2 hours away, in a town where nobody knew the story, where he could pretend to start over. But the internet doesn't forget. The articles were still there. The comments, the posts, the screenshots, all of it archived, searchable, permanent. He was 53 years old, broke, humiliated, and alone. And I didn't feel sorry for him, not even a little. He showed up on a Thursday evening. I opened the door and barely recognized him. He'd lost weight, not the intentional kind, the kind that happens when you stop caring. His shirt hung loose, his face looked hollow, and his eyes had that desperate brightness people get when they're trying to convince themselves things aren't as bad as they are. Hey, he said, like we'd just talked yesterday, like the last year hadn't happened. I didn't say anything. I was in the area. Thought I'd stop by, see how you're doing. He wasn't in the area. He lived 2 hours away now. This wasn't accidental. Can I come in? No. He flinched, recovered, put on the smile that used to work on clients, on neighbors, on people who didn't know better. I know things got complicated. I know I made mistakes, but we're still family. That has to count for something. I thought about the hotel room, the woman bolting past me, the look on his face when he realized I'd caught him. I thought about Mom packing in silence, my brother's voice breaking when he admitted he knew, my sister defending him until she couldn't anymore. I thought about Rebecca draining his accounts and disappearing, about him losing everything he thought made him untouchable. I'm trying to rebuild, he said. I need people who understand that everyone deserves a second chance. You got one. Mom gave you 26 years of them. That's not fair. Neither was what you did. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I'm your father. I know. He stood there waiting for me to say more, to soften, to let him in. I closed the door. Through the wood, I heard him stand there for a moment longer, then footsteps, then nothing. I turned the lock and walked back inside, and for the first time in over a year, I felt calm.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.